Tēnā koutou katoa. No ingarangi o Kutipuna, ko Ngāti Pākehā te iwi, ko Putawaki te maunga e runei aku taku nākau, ko rangataiki te awa e mahia nei aku māharahara, e noho au ki whakatāne, ko Nick toku hoa rangatira, ko Corin rawa ko Petra aku tamahine, ko Leny toku ingoa no the University of Auckland ahau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I'm on a bit of a te reo journey, so forgive me for some hesitancy. I am, as I said, from England. My name is Leny and I am a professional teaching fellow at the University of Auckland. I would say I'm delighted to meet you, but I will have to wait a few weeks for that. But I am very excited to be meeting you in the Leadership Mindset program for this year. For some, it's been a long wait, and we are thrilled to finally be coming together, whether that be in person or online at this stage. We don't know, but either way, it's going to be a great experience. I've been running this program now for a few years alongside Bridget Carroll, who has been a mentor to me for a number of years. And my journey to leadership began back in 2012 when I was completing the MBA, also at the University of Auckland. And at that time, my mentor, Professor Brad Jackson, who was the then chair in leadership, he suggested to me that there might be a way for me to connect my theatrical past, my earlier career as a performing artist, with this area of leadership that I was becoming more and more interested in. And so he encouraged me to pursue a PhD in leadership development, which I did. He moved on and is now at the University of Waikato, but I was very fortunate to be connected with Professor Bridget Carroll, who is the current chair of leadership at the University of Auckland. So with Bridget, I pursued a PhD in leadership development and was really fortunate to be able to look at artistic ways that leadership is expressed in organizations. And I worked very closely with a construction firm called Hilti that some of you may have come across, and I met some incredible people on that journey. So I wouldn't consider myself a career academic, but I'm certainly really attracted to this area of leadership and this notion that leadership is something that happens. It cannot happen in isolation. It happens in the processes between people. It inevitably involves emotion and expression, which of course are really unique human traits. And what I guess I'm most fascinated in is how those interactions happen between people in leadership and what are the barriers that might prevent them from happening. So we in this space call ourselves critical leadership scholars, and we're interested in the dynamics between people, particularly around power, agency, responsibility, and all of those things that potentially influence the way we come to leadership and how we are able to enact it or not. And another area of leadership, which I've become increasingly interested in, is Indigenous perspectives of leadership. So I recently took on a role, since finishing my PhD a few years ago now, I've been Director of Student Leadership Programs here at the University of Auckland. And one of those programs is called the Kupe Leadership Scholarship. And it very intentionally draws on the kaupapa of Kupe and all of the Indigenous stories that we have in this country. And it looks at what forms of leadership are most appropriate in the different contexts that we find it. And I'm really drawn to the metaphor of leadership as wayfinding. So that's something we will talk about in this program, and why it's particularly appropriate at this point when the world is uncertain and volatile and potentially becoming more polarized in many dimensions. So those are the areas of leadership I'm really drawn to. My previous career was, as I said, initially as an actor and then also as an event manager. So I worked in London for a number of years doing major events. And when I arrived in New Zealand in 2009, took on a role here in Auckland, or in Auckland, I should say, managing events there for a number of years before pursuing my MBA and then PhD. A little bit more about me. You'll have seen from my background, I love music. I have all sorts of instruments surrounding me. This is my happy place. I'm in a wooden box in a much larger shed that we built during lockdown last year so that I could make as much noise as I wanted while my children sleep. And I don't actually play as much music as I would like to, but I am very fortunate to play with a number of groups here in Whakatane, where I live, or near to Whakatane. And originally a classical musician, but I've sort of been drawn in new directions and all sorts of genres nowadays, including even klezmer, which, if you don't know, is a very traditional Jewish and Hebrew form of music. And that's been really interesting. And so music's a big passion. And also the outdoors would be another huge passion for my family and I. So I have two beautiful daughters, 4 and 6. And my husband, Nick, is really into the outdoors. So we take them hunting. The river I mentioned in my pipiha, the river that alleviates my worries is the wording, direct translation. And the river that flows past our bottom of our garden is the Rangataiki. And we often go and walk along the stock bank and fly our kites or just scare ducks. And we love to sail. We have a little yacht that we take down to Rotuiti and we sail with the kids. We love to mountain bike. We love to, I'm just learning to surf in my 40s, and we love to do all sorts of things outdoors related. So those are my kind of personal passions. And I guess the leadership mindset program is such a gift to me because it's a way to meet some people from all sorts of walks of life and to bring together all of my interests in the leadership space and to not just disseminate information to people who may not have come across some of the ideas before, but to really look at them and discuss them and sometimes push back and actually find alternatives, which are really exciting. So we will be covering some classic kind of models of leadership, but also introducing hopefully some fresh new thoughts and ideas. And I just can't wait to meet you all. It's going to be fun and interesting. I learn as much from the participants in these programs as I think they seem to learn from me. So I hope that's also the case this time around. And I have no doubt it will be. And I'll stop now because I'm waffling, but hopefully we'll see you in person. If we don't, never fear, it will still be a really enriching program. And see you in a few weeks. Ka kite.